Hello my grandbabies, Don here, your pop culture boy, aka your shitty grandpa. We're gathered here today to have one of the most unifying and one of the most therapeutic conversations to ever occur on the internet. You guessed it, race. As there's literally no other topic that brings us all together on the internet that spurts the most meaningful dialogue that doesn't trigger us into oblivion. Now the reason I'm making this video is because I'm running out of ideas and while scrolling on the shittiest brain rot app, which is Twitter, or is it TikTok? By the way, I haven't been on TikTok unless my research takes me there, and immediately after, I delete the app because it literally sucks the soul out of my body whenever I get on there from my phone. Anyway, I was on social media recently where I came across this viral post by R&B singer Muni Long, and the issue was that the president of Atlantic Records wanted her to make soulful songs for non-black artists, and she wasn't having it, and it sparked lots of interesting debates regarding black artists writing for white artists. So for this video, let's talk about the complexities of race in the music industry. Is it okay for black artists to collaborate with their white counterparts, particularly in the songwriting department? Is it okay or is it not okay? In this video, I'll talk about how the music industry is all about facades, less about what's actually happening or what's actually true. And I have a controversial take on gatekeeping and why I don't necessarily think it's needed. I am Don, your pop culture boy. Let's get into it.
Man, what's up? It's Twin That's catastrophic.
Now before we get into it, I want to talk about songwriting. A lot of people will hear the term songwriting or songwriter and immediately what comes to mind is lyrics. Someone taking out a pen and paper, like in the olden days, and writing some shit down. Or if you are a modern girly, you'll type it out in your notes app because you are a modern citizen and wouldn't be caught dead with a pen and paper, or maybe because you love the environment. Yes, that is songwriting. But also when we talk about songwriting, there is also the melodies and chord progressions. So if you are a beat maker, a lyricist, or a vocalist, you should be able to get a songwriter credit. To break it down even further, for producers such as Riot USA or Phineas, if you check all their songs that they've produced, more than likely you will see that they receive a credit as a songwriter. Or if I'm just a singer, or a vocal performer, I didn't write anything but I performed on the track. I bring it to life with my vocal delivery and I came up with my little own melodies as well. Then I will also get a co-writer credit. And obviously, if I help with writing the song as a lyricist, meaning coming up with the words, I will also get credit as a songwriter as well. Songwriting is the heart of music production, and it gets overlooked a lot of times, or not understood. This is why the music industry assemble multiple persons to write one song in order to produce a fucking hit. Some of the biggest songwriters in modern music are Neo, Esther Dean, Max Martin, Pharrell Williams, and many more. And on that note, I want to focus on the singer-songwriter Muni Long. Listen up, if you don't know who Muni Long is, then I'm coming to your house and I am going to... Now, if you don't know who Muni Long is, shame on you.
Shame! Shame!
But I'm gonna let you get off easy this time, as homegirl flew under the radar for the majority of her career. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's do a quick rundown on the artist. Today we all know the singer as Muni Long. When you think about R&B, Muni Long comes to mind, and I love her. I love her a lot. If I hadn't made it any clearer, Muni is one of the most vital R&B acts out right now that finally gained traction in this current decade. But as I mentioned earlier, Muni Long has been in the game for some time now, where she initially performed as Priscilla Renee, which is her government name. Prior her breakthrough in 2021 with the track Hours and Hours, she released 2 studio albums that went unnoticed by the general public. Jukebox, released in 2009, and 2018's Colored, a country soul album. So homegirl was also tapping into country music, and as she should. Although her career as a recording artist was not an instant success, Muni Long was able to accumulate success from building a reputation in the industry as a hit-making songwriter, writing/co-writing for many big-name artists across multiple genres. Muni was a contributor on Rihanna's 2010 album Loud, on the track California King Bed, where she was listed as a co-writer. She also has writing credits on Ariana Grande's Position album, released in 2020, and more on Ariana in a bit. Muni Long has written for Chris Brown, Selena Gomez, and many other artists. Being a songwriter in this industry is not for the faint of heart, and no one knows this more than Muni Long. The artist has been vocal about the egregious practices in the business and unfair treatment towards songwriters on many occasions, so it wasn't surprising when the singer took to social media, exposing what she as a black singer-songwriter goes through. Last Christmas, the singer shared on her TikTok page that she will not write songs for non-melanated artists. Me to the president of Atlantic, asking me to write soulful songs for non-melanated artists. She titled the video, while in the background, an audio clip of Lil Boosie ranting, saying "fuck no" played. The video caption reads, "I don't want your money. I don't care about no Oscar for it. I won't be participating cause what Boosie said. Get somebody else to do it." Now, after Muni made her post, brushed her teeth and went to bed, the singer made a follow-up video to add more context, as her initial video went viral, resulting in a lot of support and division on the net. In the video, she also explained that she once cut vocals thinking it was for a Flo Rida song, only for it to be given to Pitbull and Kesha.
So I didn't expect that last video to go so crazy like it did. I feel like it warrants a little bit of context, specifically Atlantic Records. I'll name you 3 times that this has happened. So this is the first time. I'm gonna do a second video, I'm gonna do a third video. First time, I write a song. The song is called Timber. Love it, they fall in love with the record. Me and Brianna had a great time in the studio writing a song. Brianna's also, they're like, oh, we wanna give it to Flo, as in Flo Rida. Oh my God, like this is incredible. I don't know what happened, the song ended up on Pitbull. About 2 weeks before the song gets ready to come out, they hit me up saying, hey, Ben, I'm not gonna say your last name, Ben, who used to work at Atlantic, calls me and says, hey, we need you to come cut some vocals. What does that mean? In my mind, you need my voice on the song. Cool. They still haven't said anything. So I go, and I'm hearing somebody else's vocals on my song. I'm like, what is this? I'm hearing this part. Woo. When I wrote it, I said, whoa. Where the woo came from? They're like, oh, well, you know, she couldn't sing it like you. So we had her change it to woo. And now we want you to go in and sing the woo underneath her, because your vocals are underneath her on the hook, on the whole song. And so if you don't sing the woo, it's gonna sound different. And we need to have the same feel. That's the problem that I have. You want it to feel a certain way, but you want it to look that way, but you want it to feel this way. Nah, player, I didn't get paid, among other things on the business side that just were not handled properly. Not to mention, later on, there's a copyright claim on the song. Said artist's mother was trying to get publishing on the song, and she didn't write it, not one word. Yeah, song came out, the rest is history. The only reason why I was even in the studio, because my Karen bought me flowers and sent me on vacation, because that's the only way that he could get me to show up, because they always do stuff like this, specifically Atlantic Records.
Muni also made another post in response to getting racist comments, and her advocating for herself. Now, here's my take on this Muni Long situation. I find it very interesting how the internet decides who to support and who not to support. Now, let's get this straight. It started out as just being a Muni Long problem, even though it's part of a wider problem. If we focus on her initial video, that was just her being frustrated with her situation. So even though it was an isolated situation, it is a part of a larger situation at the same time. And I did not agree with how some people were disagreeing with her, and it wasn't just racist comments. There was also people who was like, oh, you don't want to make money, in regards to the not writing for non-melanated part. I can still understand where some people are, were coming from, who were upset because she literally implied that she is not going to write for non-melanated artists. Now, is that problematic? I can see where it can be problematic, because what if, a white person said that? That would cause maybe a larger uproar. So I see where some of the defensiveness came from as well. However, with context, the fact that Muni has been in the game for so long and has written for so many artists. Hits, by the way. Meanwhile, her career being at the forefront was not being received for a decade. That should allow for people to understand where she is coming from. And also, this is nothing new. We've seen artists leech off black music genres since the beginning of time. And I made a video about this before. We have seen black artists, release a song does okay commercially, but then white artists redo the song blows up. So there's a lot of history behind all of this. Also, I feel like part of the outrage comes from how people, especially on the internet, more than ever hold others to their word. Meanwhile, they themselves change their minds all the time or cannot even remember a conversation they had a few minutes ago. Will money not work with white artists in any capacity again? It is possible, I guess, maybe, but realistically, I don't think that's gonna actually happen because she is involved with these major labels. Plus, it's not like she said she hates white people. No. Sometimes when you are so deep in the game and an artist like her that does have their own label, you still have to mingle with these majors that is filled with white/non-melanated people. But if that's what she wants to do, she has every right because it's her song, and songwriting can be a personal process sometimes. Imagine you write a song about yourself, have all intentions to perform it, and then here comes the music industry, taking your work that you put your blood and soul into for it to be performed by some industry baby that's currently being put on a pedestal by the music industry. The music industry has a huge problem, especially when it comes to promoting and prioritizing black artists whose preferred genre is R&B or country. Essentially, black artists barely gets a team that's dedicated to them or is not backed by the type of budget an artist needs for full exposure. Barely gets promoted, but then when, say, a white artist who want to do R&B or any other black genre, they get heavily promoted. And I feel like the audience can also take some of the blame regarding this as well, because there are so many black acts out there that gets little to no support from black audience. And some of these same people will give all their attention to white artists that does R&B. That's not even worthy of praise. A lot of these record labels that are now restructuring to mainly a distribution module, they have a lot of data on how people behave and they know how to target different groups of people. Now, granted, a lot of their ideals are outdated, but they have a lot of information. So a lot of times these major labels will push the fuck out of these white artists that dabble in black genres. Let's say a Justin Timberlake or a Justin Bieber. They'll get a whole team that changes their swag to make it as believable as possible or make them as black adjacent as possible to sell records. These labels know that 9 times out of 10 that if you push a white artist, sprinkle some black seasonings on them, bam, they can go really far. Look at Adele.
Pussy tight, pussy clean, pussy fresh.
Adele is extremely successful. Her albums does crazy numbers, selling over millions in the first week, releasing soulful music that takes influence from jazz and blues. Meanwhile, other black predominantly R&B artists don't do those numbers, nor get the opportunity that Adele gets. If we look at Alicia Keys back in her prime, who is very soulful as well, but a lot more rhythmic in my opinion. Anyway, her numbers, although impressive, still doesn't come close to Adele's. And Alicia Keys plays the piano, which is considered an edge. She still did not get in our good graces like Adele has. And in my opinion, Alicia Keys' music from her prime is way better than anything Adele has put out. And I love Adele, but I have to keep it real. And I know some of you watching this are probably saying, well, Adele and Alicia Keys are from separate times. Interesting take, but not necessarily in my opinion, as Alicia Keys debuted in a better time for music, i.e. when people bought albums, versus Adele, who debuted I think in 2008. And Adele is killing it when it comes to sales in this period where people don't buy albums. And she is accomplishing this doing soul music. No black soul artist out right now comes close to Adele. Also, I find it interesting that for black R&B artists to get a fraction of what Adele gets, they have to show the fuck out. Be a good dancer, singing upside down turns water into wine. Meanwhile, Adele just sings, then disappears for 4 years, then repeats the same process, then sweeps the Grammys, fuck the Grammys, dominates the radio, dominates in all aspects. But a black woman cannot do that. A black woman cannot just show up and sing for some reason. Alicia Keys had to crawl upon that piano and even dance at times. And we know Alicia Keys did not want to do that shit. She didn't want to do any of that shit. But Adele just walks out, sings, maybe walk around the crowd, touch some people, touch Celine Dion's face, and bam. We also have a great singer like Fantasia. She has to kick off her shoes and act like she's in church and be over the top. And I'm not saying you need to support white artists less. Absolutely not, because I know some people, they love to misread everything. All I'm saying is, why can't everybody support black artists in that capacity? It's as if labels and the populace love R&B, just not when it's performed by the people that created it. And I'm not the only one who thinks this. Stephanie Mills, the incredible singer, had this to say about the whitewashing of R&B.
What is your take on the state of music right now in our climate?
I think they want R&B, but they don't want it from us. You know, they want
Okay, it's over. We're done.
They want it from Adele and Justin Timberlake and those people. They don't want it from us. Because when you make an album and it's beautiful, or someone else makes an album, Kenny Lattimore had a wonderful album.
And we heard nothing of it.
And there's many levels to this. Remember rock and roll artist Little Richard, who had to act flamboyant and did all kinds of things to seem less of a manly black man so that white fathers would feel comfortable allowing their white daughters listening to his music in fear that their daughters might fantasize about him or get romanticized by him.
When I was saying rock and roll, at that time they would call black music race music when I sung rock and roll. I was on RCA Victor before Elvis Presley, but they wouldn't put me on RCA, they put me on Camden. So when I would wear makeup, they would let me sing for the white girls. When I put on eyelashes and all that, they would let me sing. But when I went as a just straight dude, they wouldn't let me sing.
Now why is that?
Well, they thought I wanted the girls. So if I came out a straight guy, they wouldn't let me sing. But when I came out with all the makeup on and all the eyelashes and all the hair, they said Richard is a good boy. I never was a good man, but I was a good boy.
Now, who is they that you're talking about here?
Some of the whites in Macon, where I'm from. I came from a little town. You know, it was real prejudice back in that time.
Now,
someone that always is included in these conversations is the African-American Ariana Grande, aka Ariana Grandisha. Ariana Grande had always dabbled in R&B. Matter of fact, scratch that. Ariana Grande is an R&B artist, but because she is white, she's able to easily maneuver the pop realm as well. And most times it's just considered a pop act. But come on, she's literally an R&B artist who performs on a pop beat. In her early career, everyone loved her for her soulful music. She got the JoJo treatment, i.e. little white girl that sings black genres, but it was around her Dangerous Woman album released in 2016, we started to see Ari transforming into a strong black woman, adopting black aesthetics into her overall makeup, becoming friends with Nicki Minaj, collaborating with Nicki Minaj and other rappers such as Lil Wayne, Big Sean, and 2 Chainz. Oh, and even Future. And this was consistent throughout her other albums, Sweetener, Thank You Next, and Positions. But what I really want to talk about is how Ariana Grande, during her Thank You Next era, which is highly regarded in pop culture, how I feel like she took Victoria Monet's style. And I've said this in an unpopular opinion before, but like she really took a lot from Victoria Monet in that period. The way she expressed herself, the way she sounded, everything. She really took it all from Victoria Monet, in my opinion. She really took a black woman's swag and ran with it. For those who do not know, Victoria Monet is a major contributor to Ariana's Thank You Next album, and they spent a lot of time together during the album's production. And I guess it is reasonable to say, well, they are friends and friends borrow each other's style all the time. But what is interesting to me, and this will piss some people off, but Victoria Monet, until her recent project, I found her music pretty mediocre, meaning the music was very safe. But that's okay. Can we all admit that most of our faves are mediocre? But moving on. Don't touch that dot. What's interesting is Monet's music is less pushed and marketed, while Ariana's music is forced on us, hence why she is so much more successful commercially. And to be real, Ariana Grande's music, while I wouldn't necessarily place it in the mediocre lane overall, her music is somewhat safe. It is manufactured for the general public, while not crossing or rarely crossing the line. So what I'm trying to say is white artists can be mediocre and thrive, but black artists can't. And even when black artists are exceptional, they get paid dust or never get the backing they deserve by 1, the industry, and 2, the people. Now, I also saw people trying to drag Sabrina Carpenter into this conversation or instigating that her rise is due to black assistants because her last album has R&B and soul influences. But outside of the samples that are black origin, it's mainly a white production behind her album. I remember when that album came out and I saw a lot of people online saying, oh my god, a nigga gotta write this. A nigga must have been involved in the production. That's literally what people were saying. They were like, oh my god, a nigga has to, put his stamp on this. Tracks like Good Graces and stuff. But when I looked into it, it's mainly a white production team. What's his name? Jack Antonoff. Literally, what's her name? Julia Michaels. Like literally just white people. Outside of the samples on like Bedchem, it's just white people. Interesting, right? There's other instances of melanated artists adding their essence to white artists' productions, which in turn helps with their success and relatability of said white artists. While on the other hand, black artists doesn't experience the same level of success and appeal from the wider audience. Recently, people lost their shit when they discovered that soul singer Marsha Ambrosius sang riffs on Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River, which came out in the early 2000s during Justin's Black era, during Justin's shift from pop boy band member to a swagged out solo male R&B performer.
Cry me, cry me, cry me, cry me.
Now, a lot of people knew it was Marsha. She got credit and everything, but a lot of people also thought it was Justin. And you can't blame them for thinking it was Justin because Marsha did sing in a way which passed off as Justin. And this is what the industry does. It prioritizes a feeling and a look more than what's actually happening. Cry Me a River was the song that made a lot of people take Justin Timberlake being a solo act seriously. And then the single Justin released next was Rock Your Body, a track produced by Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo, which was originally intended for Michael Jackson. Personally, I understand the resentment and the frustration from black artists and black people in general feeling jaded or resentful, but to play devil's advocate, it really makes no sense in my opinion, because we all need each other, and being divisive or spiteful is not what's going to solve the problem. Saying, oh, we need to stop this and that, it all sounds good. It's talking that good shit, but in the world of creativity, we can all learn and collaborate without feeling undermined by another party, which would be, in this case, white people. And I'm not excusing all the little shady things that happened, not at all, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying. Is gatekeeping the answer? I disagree with gatekeeping in regards to this conversation about music. Gatekeeping sounds good, but in the end, it leads to destruction. In the end, gatekeeping only leads to a group of people having no other options but turning on their own over time. Just to stray a bit from music, you'll see a lot of people pressing other black people for sounding different or not what a black person stereotypically sounds like in whatever part of the world. I get so many comments where people who claim to be black saying that I'm not black because I don't sound black, and just instigating that I'm white. Culture can be infiltrated and appropriated, but instead of gatekeeping, I think it's better to maintain the awareness, a strong awareness of the originators of the culture. Other examples why I'm not so thrilled about gatekeeping agendas in music: a lot of times we see black entertainers complain about the oppressive system in music against black artists, only for that same person to turn around and do the same thing to other hopefuls, i.e. handing out slave contracts and just not treating their own black artists they signed fairly. Furthermore, look at country music. Country music is so gatekept to the point where it literally was about to die. Even Taylor Swift disregarded the genre. Although artists such as Nelly, Lil Nas X, and more recently Beyonce reclaiming the genre, challenging those white old gatekeepers of country, they are still not acknowledged or appreciated for their contributions. The CMAs did not acknowledge Beyonce's Cowboy Carter, which is nasty work. I don't believe gatekeeping is the answer. However, in regards to Muni Long's statement, I totally think she is justified in the way she expressed herself. What do you think, my grandbabies? I'm Don, your pop culture boy, and I will see you in the next one.